There will come a time in your life when the silence around you feels louder than any crowd you've ever known. The people you thought would walk beside you may vanish into the fog of their own fears and distractions. You'll look around and realize no one is coming to save you. But this is not punishment. This is the initiation of your higher self. The truth is, growth rarely happens in comfort. The absence of support is not your downfall. It's the sacred space where your independence is born. When the world stops applauding you, you finally hear the faint whisper of your own soul calling you forward. Every person who rises beyond mediocrity must pass through this valley of isolation. It's where the seed cracks open to become the tree. It's where the mask falls and the real you begins to take shape. You must learn to become your own source of validation. You must learn to trust your inner compass when all external voices fall silent. You see, the most powerful people in history were not carried, they crawled. They failed, broke, and rebuilt themselves from the ashes. They found strength not in the hands that held them, but in the solitude that shaped them. When you walk alone, your shadow becomes your teacher, your pain becomes your sculptor, and your loneliness becomes your mentor. So stop waiting for someone to notice you, to approve you, to walk beside you. The moment you accept your solitude is the moment you unlock your sovereignty. Remember this, the path to greatness is narrow, not because others cannot find it, but because few are willing to walk it alone. Keep walking. The world may not see you now, but one day they'll ask how you did it. And you'll smile, knowing that it was in the silence, in the loneliness, in the moments when no one was there for you that you truly found yourself. Isolation is initiation. It is the invisible passage every awakened soul must walk through. It's the space between who you were and who you are becoming. When life removes the hands that used to hold you, it is not rejection, it is redirection. The silence that follows is not emptiness. It's a sacred echo calling you inward, toward the truth you've been avoiding. In moments of deep solitude, everything false begins to fall away. The distractions, the noise, the validation from others, all the external layers that once defined your identity, start to lose their power. What remains is raw, unfiltered awareness. You begin to see that most of your life was spent chasing belonging instead of becoming. You wanted to be understood, but isolation teaches you that understanding must begin within. When no one is there to guide you, you are forced to meet the parts of yourself you've hidden from. The fears, the insecurities, the unresolved emotions, they all rise to the surface. This confrontation is uncomfortable, even painful, but it is necessary, for it is only in the absence of distraction that you come face to face with your own potential. The silence that once scared you becomes your greatest teacher. In solitude, the soul speaks a different language. It whispers of courage, purpose, and self-mastery. It reminds you that everything you have been seeking outside, love, strength, peace, was buried within you all along. You realize that support from others is temporary, but self-awareness is eternal. This realization marks the beginning of your initiation, the crossing from dependency to autonomy, from confusion to clarity. Isolation reshapes you. It burns away what is not real so that what is real can finally emerge. You stop seeking approval, not because you no longer care, but because you finally understand that validation is a mirror, useful only until you can see your reflection clearly on your own. You begin to honor your own rhythm, your own pace, your own journey. You stop rushing to catch up with others because you see that your path is sacredly unique. Many people fear being alone because they equate solitude with loneliness. But true isolation is not the absence of connection. It's the presence of truth. It's where your soul begins to align with its purpose, unfiltered by the expectations of others. The quiet becomes fertile ground for insight, creativity, and strength. You learn to walk through life with an inner stillness that no chaos can disturb. This is what initiation looks like. Not grand ceremonies or applause, but silent nights of questioning, enduring, and rebuilding. Isolation strips you bare, but in that nakedness you find authenticity. You realize you were never truly alone. The universe simply removed the noise so you could finally hear yourself. It is in isolation that you begin to transform, not into someone new, but into the person you were always meant to be. Silence reveals the self. It is in the absence of noise that the truth of who you are begins to emerge. When the world grows quiet and the constant hum of distractions fades, you start to hear the subtle movements of your own consciousness. Most people fear silence because it exposes what has been buried. Unspoken pain, forgotten dreams, suppressed emotions. Yet it is within that stillness that transformation begins. The silence is not empty. It is full of messages waiting to be heard by the one who finally stops running. In the rush of life, surrounded by opinions, comparisons, and endless noise, it's easy to lose the sound of your own voice. You adapt, you perform, you become what others need you to be. But when silence surrounds you, there is no stage left to perform on. There is only you. And in that moment, you are invited to meet yourself. Not the version shaped by expectation, but the self that existed before the world told you who to become. Silence strips away illusions. It removes the masks you've worn to belong and the voices that once defined your worth. It confronts you with the question, who am I when no one is watching? For some, this question feels unbearable because it demands honesty. It demands the courage to face the emptiness beneath the noise. But if you remain present within that stillness, you will discover that the emptiness is not a void. It's a doorway. On the other side of that door lies clarity, authenticity, and peace. Within silence, your inner world begins to expand. Thoughts slow down, emotions surface, and patterns once hidden in the business of life become visible. You start to notice how much of your energy was spent on pleasing, proving, and surviving. And slowly, you begin to reclaim it. The silence doesn't judge or demand. It simply reflects. It mirrors your inner state with perfect honesty, showing you both your wounds and your wisdom. There is a sacred intelligence in silence. It doesn't speak in words, but through sensations, intuitions, and subtle realizations. It tells you when something feels right, when a path no longer serves you, when a part of you is longing to evolve. The deeper you sink into silence, the more you realize that you've been guided all along by a quiet presence within you. One that never needed validation or noise to exist. When you finally allow yourself to rest in that stillness, the chaos of the external world loses its grip. You no longer seek answers outside because you understand that everything you need is already within. Silence teaches you that truth doesn't shout, it whispers. It is patient, waiting for the moment you are ready to listen. And when you do, the illusion of separation dissolves. You see that you are not lost, not broken, not alone. You are simply rediscovering the self that was waiting beneath the noise, quietly, all along. Self-validation is power. It is the moment you stop waiting for permission to exist as who you truly are. For too long, we are taught to measure our worth through the eyes of others, to seek approval, applause, or acceptance before we can feel enough. But this dependency becomes a silent prison, chaining your spirit to the shifting moods and opinions of people who cannot see the vastness of your soul. True freedom begins when you no longer need anyone to agree with your path for you to continue walking it. Validation from others can feel comforting, but it is fragile. It fades the moment someone withdraws their attention or misunderstands your intention. Self-validation, however, is unshakable. It comes from an inner knowing that your value is inherent, not earned. When you validate yourself, you are no longer performing for love. You are living from it. You realize that your existence itself is worthy, that your choices and emotions deserve acknowledgement simply because they are yours. Many people chase external approval because they fear their own reflection. They fear discovering that their self-worth has been outsourced for so long that they no longer know how to feel complete on their own. But there comes a point in your evolution when you must take back the authority over your own story. You begin to affirm your feelings without apology. You begin to trust your intuition even when others doubt it. You begin to stand firm in your truth even when the world misunderstands you. This is the quiet strength of self-validation. It doesn't scream, it simply stands. When you validate yourself, criticism loses its poison. Rejection stops feeling like destruction. You understand that disagreement is not a threat, but a reflection of perspective. You stop needing everyone to like you, because you no longer need anyone to define you. This doesn't make you arrogant, it makes you authentic. You become grounded in your sense of self, anchored in an inner confidence that doesn't depend on the tides of approval. Self-validation also deepens your emotional maturity. You learn to honor your feelings without judgment, to say, "I understand why I feel this way," instead of suppressing or invalidating your emotions. You begin to listen to yourself with compassion. In doing so, you heal the inner child who once begged for recognition. You replace external praise with internal peace. The power of self-validation is quiet but profound. It builds a foundation of inner strength that no external force can shake. It teaches you that you can be your own supporter, your own encourager, your own safe space. Once you learn this, no one can manipulate your worth again. You stop chasing acknowledgement because you realize you already are the acknowledgement. A living testament to resilience, truth, and self-respect. And from that place, you don't just survive. You rise unafraid, untamed, and completely whole within yourself. Adversity shapes character. It is the silent architect of the soul, the unseen sculptor that chisels away everything weak, false, and unsteady within us. Most people fear struggle, believing it to be a curse, but in truth adversity is the sacred fire through which strength is born. It strips away comfort, exposes illusion, and demands that you discover what truly lives within you. The moments that break you are the same moments that awaken you. They reveal not what you have lost, but what you are made of. When life challenges you, when everything you depended on begins to collapse, you are forced to meet the raw essence of yourself. You learn what it means to endure. You learn patience, humility, and resilience not from success, but from failure. Pain has a way of bringing you into deep contact with reality. It removes pretense and pride, leaving behind a clearer, wiser version of you. Every setback becomes a lesson, every wound a teacher. The strength you admire in others was not born in ease. It was forged in difficulty, in nights of uncertainty, and in the quiet determination to rise again. Adversity does not arrive to destroy you. It arrives to awaken your dormant potential. When everything goes wrong, you begin to discover hidden parts of yourself: courage you never used, creativity you never needed, faith you never practiced. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and begin asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" In that shift, pain becomes purpose. You start to see that each obstacle carries within it an invitation to grow, to evolve beyond the limits of who you once were. Through adversity, your character is refined. You begin to recognize that strength isn't about avoiding pain, but about walking through it with integrity. It's about remaining kind when life is cruel, honest when lies would be easier, patient when everything in you wants to rush. Hardship teaches you discipline. It humbles your ego and expands your compassion. You stop judging others so quickly because you've tasted your own suffering. You learn empathy not through comfort, but through shared endurance. The truth is, no one becomes truly wise without struggle. The soul cannot mature in ease. Challenges demand self-awareness. They push you inward, forcing you to find stability in something deeper than circumstance. When everything external fails, you turn to the one thing that remains, your inner strength. And once you find that center, you become unshakable. Adversity does not give you character, it reveals it. It exposes the core of who you are when there is nothing left to hide behind. It refines you until the person who emerges is not fragile, but fierce. It teaches you that pain is not the end of your story, it is the beginning of your awakening. And through that awakening, you realize that what once broke you has actually built you into someone capable of standing tall, steady, and whole. Loneliness is a teacher. It arrives quietly, without invitation, often when life has stripped away the familiar and left you standing in the vastness of your own being. At first, it feels unbearable, a hollow ache that echoes through your chest, reminding you of everything and everyone you've lost. But if you stay long enough in its presence, if you stop resisting and begin to listen, loneliness transforms. It ceases to be a punishment and becomes a guide, showing you the parts of yourself that can only be discovered in solitude. In loneliness, the masks fall. You can no longer distract yourself with noise, validation, or company. You face your reflection without filters, and for the first time, you see yourself as you truly are, fragile yet infinitely capable. This meeting with yourself is uncomfortable, but it is sacred. It reveals how much of your identity was built around others, around being seen, needed, or understood. Loneliness strips that away, asking the question, who are you when no one else is there to affirm your existence? Most people spend their lives running from loneliness, filling every quiet moment with noise, connection, or digital distraction. But loneliness is not something to escape. It is something to understand. It shows you where you've abandoned yourself in the pursuit of belonging. It reminds you that the deepest companionship you will ever experience must first be with your own soul. When you begin to embrace loneliness instead of fearing it, it becomes a sanctuary rather than a void. Loneliness teaches self-reliance. It trains you to find comfort within your own presence, to nurture yourself emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. You start to discover the peace that comes from being your own friend. You learn to enjoy your company, to sit in silence without the need to fill it. This inner companionship becomes the foundation for unshakable strength. You stop clinging to people out of fear of being alone and begin to connect out of genuine love, not dependency. In the stillness of loneliness, creativity is born. Insights rise from the depths, inspiration awakens, and intuition grows stronger. With no external voices to influence you, you begin to hear your inner guidance clearly. You realize that solitude can be fertile ground for growth and self-discovery. Many of life's greatest transformations happen in these quiet spaces, where you are forced to confront your pain, but also your potential. Loneliness humbles you. It teaches empathy because you learn firsthand the ache of disconnection. You begin to see others with softer eyes, recognizing that everyone, in their own way, carries this longing for connection and meaning. And when you emerge from that space, you do not come out weaker. You come out wiser. You understand that loneliness was never your enemy. It was your initiation into self-awareness, into emotional depth, into love that no longer depends on the presence of others. It was the teacher that showed you how to belong to yourself first, walk alone, rise above. There comes a point in every soul's journey where you must release the hands you've been holding and continue forward by yourself. It's not an act of rebellion but of becoming. The path of transformation is rarely crowded. It demands solitude, clarity, and courage. When you choose to walk alone, you begin to understand that strength is not found in numbers, but in alignment with your truth, your purpose, your inner fire. Walking alone is not isolation, it is sovereignty. It is the realization that your destiny requires your footsteps, not the approval of others. In the beginning, solitude feels heavy. You'll question your worth, your direction, and your decisions. You'll crave the reassurance of those who once stood beside you. But eventually, you'll see that walking alone is not about losing others. It's about finding yourself. The silence of your own path teaches you to rely on your intuition, to trust your inner voice, even when it whispers against the noise of the world. You stop waiting for permission to live fully, because you finally recognize that the only approval you ever needed was your own. Walking alone refines your spirit. It strips away dependency and forces you to confront your fears. The fear of failure, rejection, and invisibility. You begin to realize that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to move forward despite it. With every step, you build a quiet kind of confidence, the kind that doesn't need to be seen or praised to exist. You learn to walk not for recognition, but for truth. You stop following paths made by others and start carving your own, one steady step at a time. This journey alone also reveals who you truly are when there's no audience watching. It teaches integrity, discipline, and authenticity. When no one is there to witness your effort, yet you still give your best, you rise above mediocrity. You no longer move to impress, you move to evolve. That is the essence of mastery. Doing the unseen work when no one claps, staying true to your vision when no one believes, and standing tall in your solitude, because you know where you're headed. Walking alone doesn't mean you reject love or connection. It means you no longer depend on them to move forward. You become whole, grounded, and self-sustaining. From that wholeness, you can love more deeply and connect more honestly. The relationships that survive your solitude are the ones built on truth, not need. To walk alone is to rise above limitation, doubt, and conformity. It's to live by inner guidance rather than outer approval. It's to discover that solitude is not your weakness. It is your power. The higher paths are narrow because they are meant for those who are willing to climb alone. And as you continue upward, you'll look back and see that every step taken in solitude was never empty. It was sacred, each one shaping you into the person you were always meant to become.